Good morning. My name is Kenna. I am really nervous, so that was loud. Bear with me. All right. I just kind of want to look at everybody, even though these lights are super bright, but I want to see who I'm talking to. Um, so I graduated from the University of Montana in 2022. I'm in my third year of staff with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. I'm Scottish, German, Nakota, Dakota, and Cree. And I'm currently living in Billings, Montana, doing Native ministry at Montana State University Billings. And I'm also working on starting the same ministry at tribal colleges in Montana as well. I was asked to come here today and talk about the different kinds of partnerships God has blessed me with and why they are important. I've been super blessed in the ministry that God has called me to basically my whole life. And I've developed some really cool partnerships that hopefully will continue to serve Native students in Montana for many years, even past my time in ministry if God were to ever call me out of it. If I'm able to accomplish this, I'll know I've met one of the main goals of partnership. And that is to find other people with shared vision and goals on some level who would be able to carry on that vision even without you. Good partnership has two parties willing to give time and or resources to at least one shared interest. For me, that interest is serving Native college students in Montana through InterVarsity and a gathering called Fry-Bread Connections, which is a space that I get to lead traditional Native talking circles, and we get to eat meals and have fun. So I do that through InterVarsity, and there are quite a few people who are just as passionate about that as I am, thankfully. I happen to additionally care a lot about sharing Christ with these students and helping them to feel loved and seen and understood and transformed through him. However, there has to be a good foundation of trust and time with students, especially Native students. I think I don't really have to explain the history of America, but especially with Native students, there has to be some trust in order to share those things freely and comfortably and safely. And having that base goal of just serving and mentoring them is a good way to get to that point. And that is something that a ton of people can get on board with, whether they share the same faith with me or not. So I have a couple of really cool partnerships that fall into these categories. And the first one is with my grandpa, actually. That is my grandpa and my mom. I'm going to be talking about both of them. They're at Glacier Park in this picture. Pretty cool. But yeah, so my grandpa on the left is Bruce Plummer. He's a spiritual elder and an Assiniboine elder on the Fort Belknap Reservation in Montana. He was born and raised there. And when he was younger, he spent time with the American Indian movement, and he was traveling around, experiencing a lot of really difficult things. And it was like in the 70s, and he was just going through some hard stuff. And someone ended up sharing Christ with him in a really safe, contextual way through trust and time and friendship. And he gave his life to Christ when he was 21. And since then, he spent the last 50 years serving our people on the Fort Belknap Reservation. He's done this through summer camps for kids, which is like one of my favorite things ever. He picks up garbage at powwows. He gives away food boxes. He does these big Christmas gift giveaways. He's just a spiritual mentor. He preaches. He prays. He's obviously a really big mentor to me. And so I've looked up to him my whole life. And right around the same time that God started sharing with me what he wanted me to do with ministry, with Fry-Bread Connections, he started giving my grandpa the same thoughts, like at the same time. And eventually my grandpa and I started talking about it, and we realized God's speaking to us both at the same time about serving Native college students. So it all ended up falling together, and I moved to Billings, Montana from Missoula, and we started Fry-Bread Connections in MSUB. And he's taught me how to lead a traditional talking circle, which is awesome. And he's taught me all sorts of things. He taught me how to talk to people about my faith. He's taught me how to be a Native person and be a Christian, and how to figure out what that's like, because it's interesting. And it's also simple because God's good, but it is interesting. And he's also taught me that planting and starting something new is not just like going somewhere and then leaving again and then going somewhere else and then like doing all these little things, and it's not this like flighty thing. It's starting something new is a place where we get to stick around and cultivate the communities that we want to see, communities that build true discipleship and truly honor the Creator. So needless to say, I've learned a great deal from my grandpa Bruce. Yeah. um, My grandpa also got to train the entire Montana InterVarsity staff team on how to do Native ministry, which was awesome. We met in this hotel, and the hotel, we didn't know this, but it was like under construction. So we got there, and everything was like under tarps and stuff, but we were like, okay, well, we're still doing this together. So we were in this like janky little conference room in Helena, Montana, and he just got to teach us, and he shared with us what he's already been doing in Montana and all the things that he's learned in that time. So cultural nuances, attitude, heart postures, and how to say things correctly. And essentially he trained us as InterVarsity staff in Montana how to join him in what he's already doing. And we just had the wonderful opportunity to humbly learn from someone who has the experience and the eldership. And we got to respectfully discuss with him how, as an organization and an area, we can come alongside him and add value to the work that's been done there. And that's one thing I really would like to, I can't really share this testimony without emphasizing something specific when it comes to planting in partnership and starting something new. So I'm going to turn to scripture for a second. And in 2 Corinthians 2:12, I'm going to read from the First Nations version. It says, "On my journey, I arrived at the seaport village of Cut-Through, Troas, for it was there that our honored chief had opened a way for me to tell the good story about the chosen one. But my spirit was restless when I did not find big man Titus there, for he is like a brother to me. So I left there and journeyed on my way to look for Titus in land of tall people, Macedonia." Here we see Paul prioritizing friendship in these verses and prioritizing partnership. And he did that even though God had created a way for him to go share the gospel in Troas. He decided to prioritize his friend Titus, and he had a good reason for that. God calls all of us to be ambassadors for him. And for some of us, he calls us to specific places to do specific things. But I want to be really, really clear about something. That calling is not an excuse to go bulldoze. It is not an excuse to go piggyback off of other ministers there. It's not an excuse to not even consider who else is already there and to not look for what God is already doing where you're going. I've experienced what this is like doing ministry on a reservation. We've had people come, and in the name of calling and partnership, they've been like, yeah, we want to come up to Montana and do stuff with you. But then really quickly, they just use us as a stepping stone to go do their own ministry that they felt called to, and they just wanted to do it on their own. And it feels like betrayal. It feels like breaking trust. And I think we've had enough of that. And so, I just want to emphasize that's already kind of been said today. That's not how you do planting and starting something new. That is not how you do it. You go and you look for what God is already doing. So as ministers of reconciliation for our campuses and elsewhere, we must consider our calling, of course, while also considering others who have gone before us to do similar work. So we honor the past, we honor the people around us, while also discerning how our calling can add value to those things, because they're legit. Our callings are legit. And without doing that, you're more likely to hurt the people you're trying to reach, and you're also more likely to burn out because you're still trying to do it by yourself. So not only is partnership necessary, but coming alongside partners who've gone before you. And yes, of course, sometimes it's necessary to bring new ideas and refresh things, and that's part of what partnership is, but you have to be willing to do it humbly and also be willing to do it slowly in God's time and in the time of the people around you as well. And when you do it the right way, you might find friends as close as Paul and Titus were, and I think that would be really awesome. My grandpa is one of my biggest partners, earthly partners right now, and he's helped me to build Frybread connections, and he's also given me a lot of encouragement and helped me have the confidence to connect with the Native American Achievement Center at MSUB, which is Montana State University Billings. I'm just going to call it MSUB. So speaking of the Native American Center, that's another really cool partnership that I have. So because Frybread Connections is brand new, I've spent a lot of time this semester cultivating and nourishing my relationships with the staff of the Native American Center. And it basically started by bringing a gift to the lady that works there, the main staff, the executive staff there. And I basically just told her about who InterVarsity is, who Fry-Bread Connections is, like how me and my grandpa are partnering, and that we wanted to build a community that fights isolation and depression and encourages connection and encourages just good things in general. And fights the hard things that college students go through and gives them a place to talk. So I said, we're gonna do traditional talking circles, we're gonna eat, all that stuff. And I also shared that I work for a faith-based organization, so I didn't know what to expect, but her response to that was, girl, we've been like wanting to do talking circles in our building for a long time. Like, this is an answer to our prayers. We'll pay for you, come do it every week, we'll get your meals, like, let's do this, girl, let's do it. And so, like, I was definitely, I didn't know what to expect, but I wasn't really expecting that. So that was like my first day working in Billings, and I left and I was like, okay, we're doing it, all right, let's go. So yeah, since then I've just been, and I've gotten to share more of my story with them and more of my vision for this ministry with them, and I've shared more of my faith with them too, and they've listened. The staff of that center are super open to that, and some of them, I believe, are people of faith as well, and so that's been really cool to kind of not beat around the bush, but be tactful in how I talk about my faith, and then see them connecting with that. And even if they don't, we're all spiritual people, and so we're getting to connect on something really cool. So this semester, I also got to talk to, there's a new staff at the Native American Center, and her job is literally to build community with Native students. And so I was like, we should talk. So we met, and we ended up having a lot of super similar ideas. And so this next semester, we're actually just going to join forces, and she's going to be planning weekly potlucks and meals, and then I'm just going to come alongside her and then do the talking circles at those potlucks. So that meets needs that we both have. Sometimes it's hard to get students to come to stuff at night, so I was able to find a time in the afternoon where students are available, and then I was able to bring more structured connection to her potlucks. And so it's super exciting for both of us to be able to do that together. And then I'm also an official volunteer for the Native Center, so I get to clean, and I also get to just hang out with students, help them with homework, and just be present as much as I can. And then another crazy thing, just a couple weeks ago, last week, I went to meet with them again, and we were talking about me being a volunteer, and she was like, well, yeah, of course you can clean, of course you can do all that stuff, but also I really care about the spiritual health of my students, so what if you came and prayed with students too? And I was like, okay, yeah, absolutely, of course I'll do that. And so I was nervous. I was ready at the beginning of this last semester to be like, okay, God, what's the next avenue? What's the second avenue? Because I don't know if this is going to work, but God was just like, here, here, here. And I'm just so excited to see what this next semester is going to be because, I got more time, and God's just like, let's do it. And so I'm coming alongside the Native American Center. I'm seeing what they're already doing, and then I'm trying to add value to that in a respectful way. So taking time to nourish and cultivate partnerships is just as important as, sticking around to care for the students and friends that we minister to as well. Another partnership, I guess, is as an InterVarsity staff, I get to partner directly with y'all, directly with students, which is one of my favorite parts. Over the last semester, God has raised up around 11 consistent Fry-Bread Connection students, Native students, and one in particular is really looking to grow her faith. And she's a student I see potential leadership in. And so she's someone that I can bring onto leadership, and I can partner with her as a student and also care for her in order to grow this ministry. And she gets to care for her peers. I also have another student at the Ani Nakota College in Fort Belknap, which is a tribal college, and she came to my grandpa's camp growing up, and she's in college now, and she came to WJEF this last semester, and she was like, well, we got nothing like that at our school. I really want to do this with you. Can we think about what that could look like? And so I'm also going to be partnering with her to try to start something in Fort Belknap, where my family's from, and also super excited about that. And then there's also some Native students on leadership and just Native students in general at other InterVarsity chapters around Montana that I also get to partner with and mentor and pray with. And I think the awesome part about partnering with students is that, we get to start Native ministry in Montana, and we get to do that together. The students are going to be, they're the ones in it, and we get to pray about what we want that to be together. And another cool part about that is tribal communities, even within one state, can be super different. And so the fact that there's so many Native students, which is, I can't believe I'm saying that right now, is a huge blessing because it gets to bring different perspectives in order to meet and serve, a statewide focused ministry like this. And so I'm so excited to be able to do this with the Native students, and I'm just going to keep saying how excited I am because it's true. So that's one of my favorite partnerships. Okay. Another kind of partner is someone who may not be as gifted in like specific ministry skills, or they may not be like on the ground in college ministry, but they're people who still want to support you, and they'll do what they can to do that. So I'm going to give a really quick like roundabout example of that. So my mom, who you kind of saw a picture of her earlier, is moving across the country from Montana to Washington, D.C., and she's going to serve Native people all over America through loan and housing initiatives. It's okay if you don't understand that. I don't fully understand it either, but she's really smart, and she's doing really good work for our people, and I'm proud of her. But all that to say, she's moving, and at the same time that she's moving, my family and my grandpa in Montana, we're going through a lot of really difficult things right now, and she has to move in the midst of all this hard stuff. And my grandpa has some really close partners in Virginia who couldn't come up to Montana to help up there, but they could do something there, and they decided to help my mom move into her apartment, and they did it for her within like a couple of hours. And that directly helped my mom, right? But then it also helped my family in Montana because my mom is a really big support for us. So it freed up some time for her to continue to care for us and encourage us. And, for y'all, maybe you'll meet someone here, and make a new friend, and maybe you won't see each other again till Urbana, but you can text each other and encourage each other throughout the semester. And I know I have like friends on InterVarsity staff who I maybe met at one conference, but I had a meaningful connection with them. And if I were ever stranded in their state for some reason, I could probably call them and they would help me out. You know what I'm saying? So this is the kind of partnership where, you might not be able to like go pray together on campus, but you help each other out in all sorts of different ways. And in ministry, when we network in meaningful ways, whether it's on your campus or at a conference like this, and when we truly care about all the people that we meet, we get to build this like web of partnerships and web of care that perfectly reflects God's kingdom on earth. And I just think that's crazy. Like the fact that Joanne and I didn't know each other, and then we got to talking, and we know the same family that we both love, that's insane to me, and that's God's kingdom. And that's something we get to see, and that's something we can be a part of by caring about the people we meet in this room and by caring about all the students that we meet. And I just think it's crazy that God's kingdom works like that, but it does. And then also, additionally, when we partner with people who may not have the same faith background as us, we become witnesses to them through our faithfulness and willingness to work with them regardless. So a caveat to that, like you don't let willy-nilly anyone volunteer for your ministry necessarily, but you should be willing to partner with whoever is out there. Like, for example, as a student, maybe there's an art club that meets at the same time as your Bible study. They might not be a faith-based art club, but you could plan a craft event together, and that serves both of your students, And that also is a witness to the people in the art club who don't know Jesus yet. And so, I think those kinds of, partnering where you can is really important. So partnerships can be staff and student, church, family, interfaith, cross-country, and even just like friendships. And ultimately, God guides us in these things, right? He gives us discernment to figure out where those partners are, and our job within that is to just be faithful and to go for it, to be ambitious, but do it right, do it humbly, and then stick with it as long as God tells you to. So in closing, planting and starting something new is not something that you have to do by yourself, even if you're sent by yourself. I felt like I was sent by myself to Billings. Even though I already kind of had a partner, I still was terrified. I mean, ministry is daunting. Even as a student, ministry is scary because you're going out to your friends and people in your classes who you're being vulnerable to them by witnessing to them. And if I didn't have the partners I did, I think I would be a lot lonelier and a lot more scared. But my partners encourage me and help me to keep going when I don't feel like I can do it by myself, because I can't. And that's why God made the kingdom the way that he did. And that's a huge blessing, and that I hope that's encouraging because, you don't have to do it alone. So look for what God is already doing on your campuses. Find the people who care about students and ask God to show you how you can be a part of it and how you can bring new good things to it. Thank you.